In the Caucasus, there was something called the Alma that was a big monster, a nature creature. In Australia, they call it a yowie. Yeti in the Himalayas. So there are local variations, but the story is more or less the same.
From being a carnival attraction and the subject of detailed scientific study to being part of a government cover-up to suppress the existence of the cryptid, here is how the government stole the 1969 body of Bigfoot. Many of us are familiar with the controversial search for the cryptid known as Bigfoot. For many decades, we've all picked our stance when it comes to the existence of this mysterious creature. Indeed, nobody stands on the fence. Either you believe that this creature is truly out there wandering through the woods in America, or you dismiss those who can even fathom the concept of some massive hairy hominid living in the woods. The reason for this schism in beliefs lies in the fact that neither the enthusiasts nor the naysayers have come away with any conclusive proof that this creature is real or not. The blurry photos and the strange videos that come from those hoping to put the doubt of the existence of this creature to rest don't add anything to the many anecdotal accounts of those who claim to have run into this creature in the wild. With that in mind, it's even more discouraging when we hear of accounts that could have put this debate to rest, only to find out that the powers that be have meddled in the situation to create more unrest.
We're looking for Bigfoot. Nobody was looking for Bigfoot up there at the time this all happened. I wasn't a skeptic, but I wasn't a believer either. None of us had a background in Bigfootology, I guess you want to call it. We just found it very interesting.
Just take a look at the story that occurred in the 1960s. Apparently, in 1968, two respected scientists had plausible reason that they had actually found the real body of a Bigfoot, or a Sasquatch, if you will, only for the authorities to seize said body, which in turn mired the entire event in controversy. With that in mind, we implore you to sit back as we tell you all about the story of the Minnesota Iceman, how these scientists found and analyzed it, and how the government confiscated it before replacing it with a replica that deepens the mystery of the existence of Bigfoot. The origin of the story. Leafing through the history books, you may find that the story of the Minnesota Iceman first hit our newspapers in 1968. This was done by Frank Hansen, a carnival owner who claimed to have come across the cadaver of the legendary cryptid when it was given to him by an anonymous, wealthy individual. As time went on, Hansen's account of the origin of the creature continued to evolve, giving more details which added to the mystery of the situation. Initially, he seemed to claim that the creature originated from Siberia. Dead and frozen, said body was transported to the U.S. by the original owner.
Everted lips, this pug nose, these almost cherub cheeks. It was just such a funny looking depiction that did not seem in any way to comport with the many eyewitness descriptions and the sketches of Sasquatch.
For some reason, this story suddenly morphed to one in which Hansen claimed that the mysterious specimen was shot and killed in a remote area of Southeast Asia, of all places, during the Vietnam War. As you can imagine, the changing accounts of the origin of the creature only seemed to create more confusion and controversy. Maybe this was just a ploy by Hansen to create more mystery and excitement in order to make the exhibit more appealing in his carnival, but fortunately, this couldn't take anything away from the physical evidence and eyewitness testimony, which implied that there was something more interesting about the Minnesota Iceman than just being an exciting attraction in some carnival. Looking at the Minnesota Iceman, you could say that the facts surrounding the case, the intricate details that could be found on the being's anatomy, the scientific observations that were made on the body, as well as the actions that took place going forward to make the original specimen disappear, made it clear that we're definitely dealing with something extraordinary. Minnesota Iceman was definitely no hoax, and soon we will all see why. The anatomy of the Minnesota Iceman. One of the first things that's noticeable about the Minnesota Iceman is its fascinating anatomy. Measurements of its height told those analyzing it that it was about 6 feet tall. Furthermore, the body told us that the Iceman had a muscular build with broad chest and shoulders that told us that it possessed great physical strength. Then there was the face, which was described to have the features of both humans and its ape cousins. Don't take our word for it. Take a look at the flat, broad nose, the heavy brow ridges, a wide mouth, thick lips, and a slightly protruding jaw. It had teeth that looked like humans, albeit larger than ours. Further analysis focused on the hair and the skin of our Iceman. Looking at it, we could see that the body of the mysterious being was covered in a thick layer of dark brown hair. That said, we could still make out some parts that just had bare skin. Looking at this bare skin, we could see that it was leathery and grayish in tone. Looking back at the hair, it was clear that it was natural looking, perhaps thanks to how matted it was. Another interesting set of features could be found in the hands and feet of the Minnesota Iceman. Although they were larger than ours, they seemed to have a veneer of humanity in them. Sure, the fingers were thick, but the observers couldn't help but notice how natural said fingers and skin on said fingers looked when they analyzed them. Looking at the feet, the observers noticed how big they were and how pronounced the arches on them were as well. They also took note of the distinct toes on the creature. These proved to them that the Minnesota Iceman must have been bipedal. Looking at all these features, we have to conclude that together, these features did not match any known primates today. Even its injuries seemed to stand out. Indeed, it became one of the notable features of the Minnesota Iceman, as they were signs of the trauma that the creature experienced. Located on its head and its arms, it was clear from the injuries that it experienced a traumatic end. Its left eye seemed to be out of place, and its skull had also suffered considerable damage. Let's not forget that it seemed to suffer from a broken left arm and a bullet wound on other parts of its body. Was it hunted down? We're not sure, but these injuries tell us that at the very least it was shot. It also proved to be an indicator of its authenticity, as these injuries would have been too difficult to fabricate by even the best Hollywood makeup artist, especially in the 1960s. That said, these features, especially the hands and feet, became compelling because they were considered to be quite similar to the reported Sasquatch footprints and sightings. Maybe that added to the accounts of the observers, who could not help but comment on how lifelike this creature seemed to be. Looking at the subtle texture of the skin, the joints, and the unnerving injuries that could be found on the body of the Minnesota Iceman, some of these eyewitnesses commented that they couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the creature they just saw. Some were even so overwhelmed they likened it to looking at a real corpse, and we all know how unnerving that could be for some of us. It must have been a harrowing, yet exciting experience for all who came across this strange being. It makes us wonder what the scientists who came across it thought about it.
Looks like he's looking over top of that stump. Look at him. He's moving. He's moving, he's moving, he's moving.
Scientific examination. Hoping to learn more about this creature, a pair of scientists took the opportunity to examine it back in December of 1968. These scientists were Dr. Ivan T. Sanderson and Dr. Bernard Heuvelmans. The pair used 3 days to carry out an extensive examination of the Minnesota Iceman, and in the process, they made detailed documentation of its features. Indeed, the detailed documentation of their analysis makes it difficult to doubt the veracity of their work. To them, there was no doubt that they were looking at some sort of man. Not a Homo sapien like us, but some sort of variation of the species. Dr. Sanderson, who was a noted zoologist of his time, described the creature to be the genuine article. Dr. Heuvelmans, another well-known zoologist, shared the same belief as his counterpart. He even stated in his 1969 paper that the Minnesota Iceman was a new species that he named Homo pongoides. Describing it as a unique hominid, he suggested that its features made it something of a primitive ancestor to human beings. Truly fascinating stuff, right? He went further to note the height and muscular physique that we mentioned earlier on, as well as its hairiness. Perhaps what's even more interesting about Dr. Heuvelmans' analysis of the Minnesota man was that he dismissed the possibility of it being a fake or a hoax. After spending those 3 days giving its body a thorough look, he figured that to make a fake such as this, the hoaxers would have had to construct it out of rubber or wax, carefully colored it to reproduce the details that were found on the body, such as the pores of the skin and the wrinkles and folds corresponding to the joints, even the veins just below the skin and the 500,000 hairs that were implanted on the body. This may have implied that it would have taken so much effort to create such a replica, and still, the people of that time would have fallen short of the reproduction of the real deal. Just look at the way light refracted through the ice to reveal the complex muscle striations, vascular patterns, and subcutaneous tissue. Again, even the best makeup artists of the time could not recreate such intricate details, no matter how hard they tried. Add the sweet but sickly smell that oozed out of this cadaver, and you were compelled to believe that this was indeed a real dead body.
Not Homo sapiens, but some sort of strangely hairy man. We were struck by many things, the enormous hands and the enormous feet, and also, more especially, the features of the face, because it was absolutely unlike any man on earth.
The scientists even took note of all the injuries that were found on the body and came to the conclusion that it must have been shot at close range, leading to the aforementioned injuries as well as its immediate death. A sad death for such an interesting specimen. Going further, the scientists took note of the appendages found on the Minnesota cadaver. A look at the body gave them more detail on the proportion of the limbs, the curvature of the spine, and other anatomical details, all of which told them that while this creature was related to primates, they just couldn't place what species it was, because at that time at least, such a creature was unknown to science. This made them come to the belief that this creature could bridge the gap between known hominids and apes. More details which told us about the short upturned nose, the prominent brow ridges, the enormous hands which had slender tapered thumbs that happened to be long with yellowish nails and heel-like pads on the outer side, supported his claim of this creature being something of a missing link.
It was obvious that this creature had been killed, because the one eye was completely missing and the other was hanging out of the socket, and it had blood all around, so we thought it was probably shot in one eye and the bullet made the other eye pop out.
The heel-like pads on the outer side also told us that this creature may have been quadrupedic. This is an important piece of information because such a pattern of movement created a link with the Sasquatches that were found in the continent of North America. As you can imagine, this was exciting news for the scientists who were hoping to identify what this creature truly was. Those who may want to dismiss the discoveries of these scientists would have a lot of work to do, especially when you couple their assertions with their reputations and the detailed documentation that occurred during the analysis of the specimen. They may have even done enough work to get rid of the damage caused by Hansen and his fibs. Indeed, at the end of their work, it was almost impossible to dismiss the creature as being a fabrication of Hansen and his bid to market the creature so that the public could come and gawk at it in his carnival. That said, there were still questions about the true origins of the Minnesota Iceman, the cases against deception. Looking back now, there is no way that these men could have gone so far as to fabricate their findings. One of the main reasons that they had to maintain the veracity of their findings is that their professional reputations were at stake. We all know that the pseudoscience of cryptozoology is taken with a pinch of salt. As such, the pair had to take this work seriously because they were both highly respected in their field of work. Few, if any, had anything bad to say about their academic credentials and their professional achievements. Sanderson, on one hand, was a Scottish-born naturalist, zoologist, and science writer who had obtained his degree in zoology at the University of Cambridge. With a knowledge of zoology and geology, the widely traveled scientist's field research took him to remote regions in Africa, the Caribbean, and Southeast Asia, among other places. Before long, his expertise in these studies took him to the world of cryptozoology, where he used his expertise in analysis to give detailed opinions on these unknown creatures. In the end, such expertise helped him garner the respect of his peers, despite the dubious nature of the field of study referred to as cryptozoology. He was even able to pen numerous works on wildlife, while also appearing on radio and television. Before long, he became known for bringing scientific insights to a broader audience. On the other hand, Dr. Heuvelmann's works often saw him referred to as the father of cryptozoology, alongside his colleague Dr. Sanderson. A Belgian scientist with a doctorate in zoology from the Free University of Brussels, Heuvelmans focused his work on mammalian anatomy and evolution. As such, he was seen to be an accomplished academic who made regular publications on zoological topics, so much so that he was able to earn the recognition of his peers and the world at large, especially when it came to his work on the classification of animals. Just take a look at one of his notable works, On the Track of Unknown Animals. With such a title, we actually should not be surprised that he eventually turned his attention to the world of cryptozoology. In fact, this book is considered to be a foundational text in cryptozoology, as it is seen as a combination of rigorous scientific methods and open-minded exploration of unknown creatures. With that in mind, there is no doubt that Heuvelmans had a reputation as a detailed researcher, and as such, his analysis of the Minnesota Iceman could never be in doubt or considered to be some sort of fabrication. What is even more interesting about the analysis carried out by the pair is that despite the fact that they were performed at different times, both scientists' observations seemed to match. Both seemed to have identical observations when it came to details such as muscle striations, vascular patterns, and injuries that matched real biological specimens. Aside from keeping their reputation intact, another reason that the work of the pair could not have been fabricated is the detailed nature of the work carried out on the Minnesota Iceman. Looking at the report, we can see how they went as far as involving sketches, notes, and comparisons with known primate anatomy. This told us how rigorous and detailed they were with this work, so much so that you could not compare the analysis with the works carried out by those who may have fabricated their findings. Just look at their focus on specifics, such as the articulation of joints. Such details provides a robust framework for their claims, and as such, we must take their work seriously. Finally, one could say that the works of the scientists, when it came to their analysis of the Minnesota Iceman, could not be fabricated because even their critics could not come up with convincing proof that these reports were fake or invented. Sure, some skeptics have come out to claim that the Iceman was fake, but none of them could prove how this could be so. They had no rebuttal for the anatomical details penned down by the researchers, and as such, many of these naysayers could be considered to be nothing but haters. As such, what we may have is the real deal here. What makes the situation controversial today is how the powers that be meddled with the real body of the Minnesota Iceman, the seizing and replacement of the Minnesota Iceman. What we found after the release of the findings on the Minnesota Iceman were made public was that the original Minnesota Iceman suddenly disappeared off the face of the planet. What's even more mysterious about this is that the body suddenly reappeared. However, it didn't take long for many to point out that this body that reappeared was a fake. Before long, man began to speculate that this body was a replica that may have been returned to the public by the government. One of the reasons for the spread of such rumors is that Hansen claimed that he was visited by government officials soon after Sanderson and Heuvelmans examined the mysterious body. After the officials examined the body themselves, Hansen reported that he was instructed to remove the body from his public exhibits. As such, he seemed to be helpless as they removed the body and replaced it with a replica that just didn't meet up to the authenticity of the original. Some people came to the conclusion that the government got involved with the removal of the Minnesota Iceman from the eyes of the public because they wanted to prevent widespread panic. Others suggested that this was done because they wanted to study this body themselves. Another school of thought figured that the government took the real Minnesota Iceman from Hansen's custody because it was part of a broader effort to remove evidence of Sasquatch and similar cryptids from the eyes of the public. As wild as this last suggestion may sound, there are reports that show that this is how the government operates. Such evidence comes from the mouths of whistleblowers who worked in law enforcement and those who worked in wildlife agencies, addressing the claims of skeptics and accusation of a government cover-up. Critics that claimed that the Minnesota Iceman was nothing more than the fabrication of those looking to attract punters to their exhibits were put to shame. They tried to dismiss the findings of Sanderson and Heuvelmans, but they were dismissed thanks to the detailed work of the highly reputable scientists. Furthermore, even laymen who got a view of the original Minnesota Iceman could tell you by themselves that this was the real deal. It would have been too difficult for anyone to make something so authentic back in the day, especially when it came to the injuries and the decaying parts of the body. With that in mind, we turn our attention to numerous law enforcement officials, park rangers, and military personnel who have come out to state that they had come across something similar but were forced to remain quiet as part of a cover-up. They came to believe that the Minnesota Iceman's confiscation was part of an effort to put an end to the evidence of the existence of this cryptid. Take a look at U.S. Forest Ranger Bob Garrett, who claimed that he had come across large footprints in remote parts of the forest many times in his career. When he reported such findings, he was ordered to keep his mouth shut. The same happened to former Washington State Trooper James Beckshire, who claimed that he had come across several Sasquatches as they were crossing roads late at night. When he filed a report, not only was it thrown out of the records, he was instructed not to carry out any more investigation on the matters. These are just a handful of many similar accounts of those who have found evidence of the existence of these creatures. Bigfoot sightings have only become more shocking as our technology advances, showing footage that is clearer and more compelling than ever before. The secrets of Bigfoot are on the verge of being revealed in this new century, where everyone has an HD camera built into their smartphones. Seeing this legendary creature in all its glory is quite terrifying, but it is also proof that sometimes myths and legends are reality. So now we take a look at the top 20 scariest Bigfoot sightings and encounters. Starting with sighting number 1, taken with a high-definition camera on an ordinary hiking trail, this creepy footage is not for the faint of heart. Taken in a thick forest in Crescent Falls located near Alberta, Canada, this man comes across something that will change his life forever. As he explores the area, this man comes across a primitive yet sturdy shelter made out of thick tree branches, leaves, and grass. Becoming curious at this little fort, he decides to strap a live recording trail camera to a tree facing the structure. Could this be the work of some playful children? But what he learns next stuns him and the community. The very next day, he checks his footage and sees a huge, hairy creature standing in the dark forest near the wooden structure. This terrifying footage shows the Kewahkutan in all its greatness. This name translates to forest beast, or even forest beast of darkness by locals, and is thought to be a close relative of the Bigfoot, given its similar appearance. Further analysis of the trail camera footage has experts determining that the Kewahkutan is around 9 feet tall and shares many distinctive Bigfoot-like features. Among these features are things like a dome-shaped head, broad shoulders, great stature, and of course a scary, intimidating presence. This is among the most convincing and terrifying footage Bigfoot hunters have ever received.
Got some fresh tracks down here. Looks like a large animal, but they're freshly compacted, so something came through here very recently, yeah?
In second place, this world-shaking footage comes straight from a Bigfoot fan's dreams, as it shows proof in clear detail of 2 huge, furry creatures walking upright through the wilderness. This footage was taken sometime in August of 2023, making it extremely current, and from one of the most protected parks in North America, Yellowstone National Park. When the owners of this footage confronted Yellowfoot's park rangers, they were met with a strange reaction. It was not excitement or confusion or even fear that they reacted with. Instead, upon seeing the footage, they just gave awkward laughter and a very vague agreement that yes, that was Bigfoot in the footage. This strange reaction and nonchalant response makes one wonder what else is creeping around Yellowstone Park that the rangers don't want being dug up. TikTok is one of the fastest-growing social media platforms ever, and footage from all over the world is being uploaded constantly. This is where we see one of the most wild clips of Bigfoot ever seen. The uploaders of this clip claim to have found a sleeping Sasquatch. In the footage, a big, hairy figure with extremely long, tangled, and matted fur is splayed out on the forest floor, and the cameraman exclaims that he will take a hair sample to study it in more detail. This footage was met with much skepticism, as in certain angles it begins to look like an Ewok costume from a Star Wars film. But could this be a set piece for a film, or something more? You will need to use your own judgment to decide, is this a Bigfoot at rest or a hoax? Number 4 on our list has an extraordinary claim. This next piece of footage claims to show the elusive 9-foot-tall Sasquatch captured in a steel cage. While many people have claimed to have seen or encountered this legendary creature dead or alive, none have ever claimed to have captured him. What truly lends this shocking claim any weight is that the History Channel investigated this claim themselves, lending it more credibility.
I came outside and she was like, "There's something up there watching us." I saw it standing up on the hill. That day I saw Bigfoot.
The footage shows clearly a massive russet-brown creature standing on 2 legs, with shining hair and massive hands on display. However, many speculate that this show was pulled from the History Channel because the Bigfoot in question had managed to break out of its cage. This clear, well-edited footage of the creature is being called into question by sharp-eyed skeptics, who claim it is clearly a scene from a movie and that if it were real, there would be no way to keep the Sasquatch contained in such a flimsy enclosure for long. Whether this is a hoax, a scene from a film, or a rare glimpse into the truth, it is up for you to decide. Number 5 is footage that was sent to the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization in Oregon, with a clip showing a massive, shaggy, and muscular-looking beast walking on 2 legs. This is a hot piece of footage, as it comes from Oregon, an area that is known for its frequent Bigfoot sightings. However, this photograph is rare indeed, as few who see this legend ever have the opportunity to quickly take proof. This rare still image has captured the unique anatomy that a creature of this magnitude would have, with its long arms that do not seem proportionate with the rest of his body, something that jokesters and pranksters never get right when they are creating their Bigfoot costumes. This one detail lends this photograph a great deal of credibility. Number 6 is a clip captured by a Canadian hunter who managed to stalk and film the elusive Bigfoot from a distance. In the footage, Bigfoot is clearly seen as a big dark figure ambling around the winter forest. However, one detail that stands out to skeptics who reviewed the footage is the careful way this dark figure moves. Wouldn't Bigfoot move with more confidence and assurance in his own domain? People also doubt that this hunter would have been able to escape Bigfoot's keen senses.
10-20 feet behind me, and as I turn around, I'm looking straight and I see the creature on that tree. So what I do is I continue walking closer.
But in the end, it's for you to decide. Number 7 is perhaps one of the most terrifying and confusing pieces of evidence yet. This clip takes place in beautiful India, where a man is cheerfully taking a walk through the green jungles, walking past stones and trees, when he hears a noise and captures a strange, nightmarish figure on camera. The quick escape behind a tree hides the creature, making it unclear whether it was truly a Bigfoot type of species. Normally, Bigfoot is spotted in places across North America and Canada, but to spot one in the rainforests of India is certainly new. Number 8 on this list is fascinating because of the up-close and personal footage we get of this giant and powerful Bigfoot casually walking into the woods. The cameraman is only a few feet away from this lumbering giant, and yet the Bigfoot-like creature remains unaware. The nerves of the cameraman make this footage shaky and grainy as they struggle to keep Bigfoot in focus with its powerful shaking. The shaky quality makes people doubt the veracity of this footage, but if it is real, we can see in full view just how powerful and strong Bigfoot really is. Let's hope the footage is not real, or else we may never have a good night's sleep again, knowing such a creature is waiting just beyond the trees. The video in the 9th spot comes from the Arctic, where the cameraman claims to have captured footage of a real Yeti. This footage is slowed down and a little blurry because of the harsh conditions in the Arctic. However, one can clearly see and hear an enormous creature crawling forward toward a dog bowl that was placed there to lure the creature close to the camera. While the Yeti-like creature looks straight into the camera, it is difficult to see distinct features, but one detail that is very clear is the dark hair, where normally people would assume a Yeti would be white-haired. Could this be the Arctic Yeti, or is it just a lost bear? This is for you to decide. Number 10 comes to us from nearly a decade ago from Czechoslovakia, as a hiker took his camera with him into the deep forests in this remote location. Whether he made it a habit to vlog his hikes, or if he pulled his camera out after hearing unusual noises is unknown. But what he captured on film was shocking.
Tonight is going to be different. We're going to be playing back a high-quality Bigfoot sound that was recorded just last year.
The noise was haunting and did not sound like a howl or bark, but something deeper and louder, its noise resonating through the forest. The hiker was able to control his reaction and move toward the noise, and discovered deep tracks in the ground, scattered branches, and clear signs of something big having just been through the area. While the tracks looked humanoid, they were too large for an average man. Abandoning his curiosity, he turns and leaves, posting the footage online, sparking a great deal of interest as people analyze his encounter. Many believed it was proof of Bigfoot or perhaps a troll that lived deep in the forest. However, skeptics claimed this noise was likely a result of wind. But what made those deep tracks in the ground? This will likely remain an unsolved mystery until someone else gathers the courage to explore this unknown forest. The 11th video clip is truly mysterious, as we are whisked away to a dark, foggy forest in an unknown location. The footage is grainy and dreamlike, with the surroundings looking like a very old, untouched part of a forest, with massive trees towering overhead. However, one strange detail is what makes this more than just a nonsense clip from a stranger. The many felled trees and amount of discarded foliage creates an uneasy atmosphere. A sudden shift in the camera's attention takes the viewer up into the trees, where a fuzzy figure seems to be resting high above. Could this be Bigfoot? However, careful analysis makes people wonder if this is just a trick of the light, more of a wishful thinking than any real sighting. It's up to you to decide. Do you see anything in the trees? Number 12 is one of the most surprising entries on this list, because of how unexpected the sighting in this one is. A group of horse riders are trotting along a scenic plain, the cameraman capturing this happy ride under a bright sky.
It was up on the hill. It was standing there watching.
Riding through the forest trails on horseback with friends sounds like an amazing afternoon activity, but that is not what steals the show in this clip. When reviewing the video later on, they spot something moving in the deep of the woods, watching them ride past. The figure is massive and hulking, causing them to feel truly shocked that they didn't spot their mysterious watcher while they rode through the forest. This sighting has been the cause of a lot of speculation and chatter, but what do you think of this footage? The lucky 13th spot is claimed by a hiker who took a shaky video of his encounter with a strange creature in the forest while out on a walk. According to the hiker, he had been strolling through the forest when suddenly he heard loud footsteps nearby. So he whipped out his camera and recorded this unsettling footage that shows a big and tall creature with dark black fur walking on two legs through the trees. Could this be Bigfoot? A gorilla? A man in an elaborate suit? That is up for viewers to decide, as not much more is known about this mysterious video. The video that takes the 14th place in this list begins very innocently, with somebody filming their backyard. The cameraman at first records their dog as he pees on a nearby swing set, before panning across to the forest beyond their property line. They seem to catch movement and rustling leaves, so they try to zoom in and capture whatever is creepy in the forest. But the creature is too quick, leaving only traces of its furry body to be analyzed by the cameraman. Then, movement is spotted once more in a different area, leading people to believe there are multiple of these Bigfoot types of creatures watching from the trees. Either that or the elusive Bigfoot is impossibly swift.
Saw a mother bear and two cubs this past spring. I don't know where they would be now. Whoa, what is that?
If genuine, this footage could be proof that there are many more Bigfoot-type creatures across the world. Number 15 is a video from Florida, home of some of the strangest people and creatures in North America. The park ranger that caught this footage was using his phone while driving around in his Jeep. He had been investigating a disturbance in the park when he caught sight of a gigantic beast moving in the trees. His flashlight illuminates the area, and it can be seen walking deeper into the forest, moving with a slinking gait, before disappearing. Back at the station with his co-workers, the other park rangers debate what it could be. As the people with the most experience in this area and with the inhabitants of the forest, they decide to agree to disagree, as they cannot decide whether the creature is a bear, a shadow, or Bigfoot. However, The park ranger himself has told people that he believes that the figure in the video was probably the famous Florida skunk ape. What do you think? Is this Bigfoot or another cryptid based in Florida? This next piece of evidence is shocking because of how unexpected it is. This photograph shows a massive figure covered in reddish-brown hair, with massive hands and an ape-like face. This is a complete match to the description of Bigfoot. Many could mistakenly label it a monkey or primate of some kind, but the photographer behind this shocking picture insists that he has evidence that this is the remains of Bigfoot. According to the photographer, he found this corpse while on one of his many explorations. He says that it is in such amazing condition because the creature had been encased in ice, keeping it preserved for who knows how long in amazing condition. This would explain its rigid pose, but could this instead be an elaborate prank? Or perhaps this rare footage is truly what it is presented as, the remains of a creature from ages ago that has managed to survive into the new era. Number 17 doesn't seem scary at first, as it is filmed on a bright sunny day in a green forest. However, what is captured on camera may send a chill down your spine. What begins as an ordinary hike through the woods transforms into a chilling encounter with an unknown creature. This hiker was minding his business when the hair on the back of his neck suddenly stood, and something warned him that he was no longer alone on this hike. Pulling out his camera, he starts to record and captures a shadowy creature moving around in the trees. The extreme zoom-in has caused the video to drop in quality, but the hiker did not dare move any closer in fear of bringing attention to his spot behind a tree trunk. This upright, ape-like form almost seems to see or hear him before deciding to keep walking on his way. Number 18 on this list is perhaps the clearest footage on this list, as we can clearly see a crystal-clear image of a Bigfoot-looking thing skipping through the trees at high speeds only feet away from the person behind the camera. Some might think it's a big brown bear running past. The strange movements do not seem as lumbering as a bear. Instead, it is quite graceful, moving with the agility of quite a young specimen. While the footage is extremely vivid and clear, it is also very short, as the elusive Bigfoot disappears after only a moment on camera. Some would even call this the most terrifying of all the proof thus far. After all, could any other footage compete with the clarity and assurance of this one? Are there young Bigfoot-like creatures finding their ways to new areas and growing their species in the dark? What do you think of this footage? Is this Bigfoot or something else?
I've gone on many nocturnal hunts looking for primates. It's very different when you're out there and you're searching for something big.
Number 19 on this list was over a decade ago when a large creature was caught on a trail camera, and the image was then shared on Facebook for people to analyze. This footage is a close-up of what appears to be an eye. The mysterious eye seemed to belong to something more than just your average curious squirrel. People began to suspect that they were seeing proof of Bigfoot, as it is known as a tall, human-shaped creature that lives in forests. Bigfoot has been stalked, hunted, and spotted in only small glimpses for years. So to have a look into his eyes is a stunning piece of evidence to add to the ever-increasing mountain of proof being collected over decades. However, some experts that examine the photo believes that the eye matches the eye of a wild pig. Could it be just a curious animal, or is it proof of Bigfoot? The final spot on this list goes to this video that, although a bit glitchy, seems to capture a clear view of Bigfoot. While the big lush forest seems peaceful and quiet, this sudden appearance has caused people to wonder if it's a bear or gorilla. But many more believe this is Bigfoot in his natural habitat. Small details in the video make it both more suspicious and more authentic. In the end, it's up to viewers to decide, is this video real or a cleverly edited hoax?
So you and the friends were sitting there playing and talking about it, and you all knew it was there? Did you all know it was a Bigfoot?
No.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and share it with a friend. Which video do you think has proof of Bigfoot's existence? Are there any on this list that you think are a well-played joke? Before you go, make sure you subscribe and turn notifications on so you never miss an update.